I noticed for the last 2 years, since we had so many New Yorkers coming
Yeah.
in and people from California,
Yeah.
they come in with like a little different standards, the
Yeah.
different, like used to items.
Yeah.
And the majority of them automatically have to have an attorney.
Right.
So, and I mean, I always advise my people to have an attorney, who
When it's
specializes
needed,
in
when
certain
it's
things,
needed,
when
yeah.
it's needed. And what do you think about it? Like, what's the difference?
That's a good
between
subject.
Title company which have an attorney, because I had several title companies
Yeah.
which pitched me on like kind of, do business with me because we have attorney.
Yeah.
But realistically, there's a lot of deals which I feel like they're so standards that there's like there's no complication. It's just like it's a homestead property, and realistically, it's so basic, simple, that why would you need to pay extra for the attorney to just review the contract, which the contract is like standard contract where you fill out the blanks.
Correct. Yeah.
So-
and so I agree with you, and I have these discussions a lot, especially in the recent couple of years, right, with all the New Yorkers coming down, because they're a attorney based state. So all of the real estate transactions, even their contracts, are written by an attorney. So they're just used to that style of work, not understanding that other states operate differently, right? And so this is where it's important to have a conversation with them, educate them. They're not somebody that you can educate, right? They're just like very hard-headed, and it's like you just got to let them go and do their thing. But at least still have a conversation with them and see, can you explain to them and have them understand? Because I feel like our goal is to facilitate a transaction, to make it smooth, to recommend the right people in order to get it to the finish line smoothly. And so sometimes I feel like when we do get attorneys involved, and listen, I love attorneys, we need them, right? But not for basic real estate transactions.
Correct.
And so especially here, since we are the ones, we as realtors write the contracts, we literally are checking off boxes. We need to know what we're checking off, and the client needs to know what they're
residential world, though.
in the residential world. I mean, the commercial as well, it has, a few extra, aspects to it, but we do have a standard commercial contract that's utilized as well. But with commercial world, yes, you usually do need an attorney, because there's a lot more steps
involved.
Yes, there's a lot more layers involved in facilitating that transaction. But on a residential transaction,
Filling out the blanks.
It's filling out the blanks. Maybe there are some additional terms that you need to write in because it's specific to that transaction. But as far as like having another set of eyes, an attorney reviewing, sometimes because the deal is so basic and they're reviewing the documents, they feel like they need to complicate it just to justify their pay, And like, I'm sorry, attorneys, but I love you. But when you're
Sometimes
there,
we don't need you.
sometimes we don't need you. When we
got
need
it.
you, we call you. But with our title company, we do have attorneys on staff. So when we do need them, we do contact them. However, for the most part, we get a title commitment. It has your requirements that have to be met. And then sometimes, the seller side is the one really that may need to hire an attorney, because if there's stuff on the requirement side of the title commitment that needs to be cleared that the seller is not able to clear on their own, they may need to hire an attorney, right? And so that's where an attorney comes in. But for the actual buyer side of the transaction, there's really no need for an attorney to be involved, because you are going to pay more money unnecessarily.
I feel like unless you're investor and like you need to open that correctly, like the company, so like you close it in the name of the LLC, for example, or things like that, or if like FERPTA it's involved.
But you see, that's a different real estate attorney, So there are different.
Correct. Not the one like more to guide you through the taxes.
Correct.
And
the
structure,
yes,
versus then just let me review your blanks.
Yes, because a real estate attorney is there to facilitate a real estate transaction. They have their trade and their specialty in what they specialize in, right? And so if you want to get that specialized service of like, hey, how is it better for me to structure my company, right, for tax benefits, then you really need to have a CPA and maybe an attorney that specializes in tax law. And so that's going to be for a more complex, type of a situation. But that's where you need to, prior to even going under contract, probably have that part figured out,
and at least know how you want to
Yes, or, while you're under contract, make sure that you have the assignability clause checked off, so that, because you're buying it in a contract is in a personal name, but that prior to the closing, you're going to assign it to an LLC or, or a corporation. You need to make sure that you get that confirmed prior to the closing.
Which I always, all the contracts I write, I always check the assignability clause without,
Yes.
like without removing the liabilities.
Correct.
Because realistically, it doesn't hurt anyone.
Right.
But in a certain point during transaction, we figure out that this is the best way for the
Correct.
buyer. We have that option.
I highly recommend that as well.
I don't even understand why there would be different way.
Right, exactly.
Why you
I'm
cannot
with you.
assign, or like the clause which is like, yes, you can assign and you can
Release from liability,
I'm
yeah.
like, what kind of contract is that?
Right.
Like, realistically, it's not even a contract at
Correct.
that point. So yeah, and we did close. I mean, so many deals in the name of the LLC, because I feel like it's a mandatory if you purchase in it as an investment.
Yeah.